Hey guys, welcome back to part 3 of my conversation with Meredith Arthur. In this part, we actually speak about how we should not really limit our own potential and almost walk away from action and so much more. But before we head into the chat, I wanted to smash that bell icon and hit subscribe. And off we go to my chat with Meredith. So my question to you is that when you talk about self affirmations, you also speak about writing. What have you seen? If I'm an individual, I'm trying to follow some processes. How have you seen, or rather, what have you seen as being best way to start? Because the problem often is to start. You don't
Mm.
you think so much about, okay, do I do self affirmations? Do I do journaling? If I want to journal, do I get a notebook? Do I write it on my phone? You're going to spend more time thinking about how you're going to start, what you're going to do, and you don't do it. But where do you start?
I have two thoughts about this. I have two different approaches depending on who
Hmm.
you are. I mean, how you work. One is I encourage people to realize that writing starts inside of your head,
Hmm.
thinking clearly, articulating ideas, not just like being cast in the sea, but like starting to make them clearer. And
Hmm.
that writing is an iceberg, and all of the things that are below the water is what's happening in your head. It's not always just what you're writing down. This little thing
Hmm.
above the ground is what you're actually writing.
Yeah.
So I would say that there are lots of exercises you can do where you don't even need to decide about your book or your pen. What you need to decide about is inside, like, what am I trying to say and who am I trying to say it to? And that's the iceberg work. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is, and I am a fan of it and I put it in the book, is that Artist's Way, the Julia Cameron
Hmm.
morning pages. If you're
Yeah.
someone who just isn't sure even what's in the iceberg, when you wake up in the morning, grab a piece of paper and a pen and know that you will throw these pages away. Don't get
Hmm.
married to what these pages are. Write
Yeah.
3 pages longhand every morning, just when you wake up. Just see what comes out. You'll be surprised. And then set them to the side. You're doing the iceberg work. Now, once the iceberg work has happened and you're like, now and this is for me when I got the diagnosis and I was like, I have so much to say now. The iceberg was like building like crazy. Then I started writing, and rewriting to start to figure out what that shape was.
When you're just saying that, I'm thinking about how. So I couldn't journal for the longest time. When I was talking about what do you do before you start journaling, that was me talking about myself. I went through that. I went 3 months. I bought 2 notebooks. I bought a journal off Amazon, which was supposed to be a journal you would write in. I bought a journal meant to help you journal. And then I downloaded a journal app on my phone. Till eventually one day just took out a notebook, said, let me just write. So I don't do 3 pages. I try to do as many words that come to me first thing in the morning. Wake up, just like I do like a paragraph. And I guess that puts
Great.
less pressure on me. I'm just writing whatever I can write. But what it's also kind of shown me is that it's. I think the morning is when your first thoughts come out. You start your day off with, oh my god, I got so many things to do. I got so much to accomplish, and there's something there, right? It's that we start off with
Yes.
just like the morning is this like this hits you, and it starts with the to dos.
Well, for me, and I think that's a great point because one thing I learned over time about my anxiety is that it would ramp up in the morning. Like I would
Hmm.
get crazy morning energy and try to fix everything and clean up and la. And now I try to use it as a
Hmm.
tool to have this conversation with you and bring a lot of like fresh thought to it, or to tackle a challenging problem instead of getting sucked into stuff that will solve itself anyway. I sit
Yeah.
and write, or I sit and try to figure something out, or just tackle the biggest thing in front of me.
Yeah.
And it helps.
What we also often do is that we kind of think about it as I have too many problems to solve. So sometimes you start with the easiest one. I think I like what you just said about the fact that you start with the tough one. You start with the big one because that's the one that's going to stay in your head while you're
Oh
doing
my
the
God,
easy stuff.
yes.
Because you're spending your
Absolutely.
day worrying about that one thing you have to do, but no, I do it. It's like when you make a presentation, you'll do everything except for making that presentation. You will spend
I
your
know,
time.
I
That
know.
smoothie will take so long to make. like, like my smoothie making goes so long when I have to make a presentation that I'm like,
Oh my God.
I put
Hilarious.
so much effort into that one. There's hardcore effort going into that.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and you talk about, you know, just like weighing the risk of action versus inaction. And
Yeah.
most of us don't think about that enough. We just say it's risky. It's, there's fear, there is obviously anxiety, all that stuff. But we don't think about what happens if you don't act. Uh, I'd love for you to dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think another way to say it is, if you have this question in your mind your whole life, like, what if I did that? What if I tried to start my own business and you never do it?
Mm,
How will, what will that, the inaction actually does have an outcome that you may not be able to gauge. Yes, there's a risk to going and starting the business, but you will get an answer. You will, like, move down that path, and you will know once and for all, and it will help you resolve something important,
mm,
possibly. So the thought that you're just going to stay in a marriage, let's say, or you're going to
mm,
stay in a job and it's really not working, um and you think, well, I'm going to stay safe, like,
mm.
the next thing you know,
Yeah.
that spouse may leave you. You get fired
Yeah.
from that job because you're not able to bring what
What's
you need
needed.
to bring to that. Yeah.
And I think we also tell ourselves so many things, right? One of the terms which I spent a lot of time on trying to figure out and kind of soak in was, you mentioned cognitive distortions. And
Yes.
you make a list of things, and obviously that comes towards the chapter where you also talk about the December, which obviously you try to find. I think it's also birthdays though. I think birthdays and
Mm,
December.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
Like I'm going to be 40. Everyone's like, what are you going to do when you're 40? And I'm like, so I did this thing last time. Like, no, I'm going to be the fittest I can be by the time I'm 40. So I'm like working out, doing. Always been that person, but like really hard. So everyone's like, what are you doing for 40? I'm just working out. I'm like, but I've been working out for like years. So it's not like it's a new thing. But essentially giving yourself this is what I'm doing this year. Like, I'm going to drink less. I'm going to eat more vegetables. Although I've always liked vegetables. I don't know why I said that, but I like eating vegetables. But you come up with these things. You tell yourselves that what I've been doing so far has been bad. What I'm going to do going
Mm,
ahead is good. And then you make a plan which you never
mm,
stick to.
right.
And
And then you feel bad about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
One of the things, by the way, I've been doing is on my, so I'm 46, right?
mm,
Am I? Yes. Yes. Because yes, because 1975. I'm 46. I'm about to turn 47.
mm,
And I've started in my head to say I'm 50.
mm,
And I've started putting it in like different places, like, you're 50, you're 50. Because I don't want to build some big thing around 50.
mm,
Like,
yeah,
I'm already 50. Whatever. Like, I just I what I want for 50 or for 40 or for whatever keep is to keep having momentum on
yeah,
addressing challenges. Like, those
yeah,
challenges may be physical, they may be mental, but, like, if, for example, this year, my New Year's resolution was figure out that hip pain, which is so
mm.
perfect for somebody in their 40s. But, like, I've been just having this problem with my hip and I could not figure it out. And so my whole thing was like, if it takes all year, Go to
Mm.
as many doctors as you need to go to. Go to physical
Yeah.
therapists. Let's just figure that out.
Yeah.
And there's something about, instead of making some big life change, but just being like, take action on the stuff that is like genuinely there.
Yeah.
Um the stuff that's scary. Like, and that doesn't mean like lose weight. It's more like, you know, to me the hip pain was like the biggest fear. So like whatever that is, like be like, I'll take action on this. I'm going to break it down and I'm going to do blah blah blah. And then you can do it and then you actually do feel better.
So I told myself in 2021 that I will stop overthinking it and actually sit down and write. And the only way I could start writing was writing a newsletter. And I said, I won't give pressure. Initially, obviously, right? I said, okay, I will write a newsletter which has 3 sections every week. Obviously, right? That's what you tell yourself. And after 2 weeks, you're like, there's no way I'm writing 3 sections every week. So eventually came down to, but I continued to write. I made it smaller and smaller. Now I write about 200 words, 300 words a week. But what that did
No,
for
that's
me,
great though.
because all I told myself is I'll just going to write. Um, in 2021, I wrote my first book and it got published this year in
Yay.
Feb.
Oh my God, that's
All I did was
fantastic.
I said no pressure, write 200 words a week,
That's
which is
perfect.
manageable.
That's perfection.
Yeah, and
I
it was
love
just
that.
that
What a great example.
I set myself a low bar. I'm like, this is it. This is the lowest bar. Like 200 words, you can do that. Like you got this.
Yes.
Um, and that's all I did. And it made the process of writing the book easier because I wrote the book exactly like I write my newsletter. Like just write for an hour, write tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow. You want to write? Don't want to write tomorrow. Write day after. But I did almost not
Yes.
finish the book on time. But that's a whole different story because I went through 2 weeks of I'm going to sit every day and write for 2 hours because I'm behind
Right.
schedule on this
Right.
book. But yeah,
Yeah, you didn't follow your what you had learned,
yeah.
which is to make the bar lower.
You just got to put less pressure on yourself, and I feel that's really what helped it.
Yes.
So I put myself into that position, and because and most people say no, put that pressure on yourself. Get anxious and it'll help you. And you talk about that as well.
No,
You talk
no.
about that in the book, saying
Yeah.
anxiety doesn't help you. And we always feel like,
It does
you
not
got to
help you.
feel like you're on the edge. I don't want to feel on the edge.
No,
I don't want to
actually
go skydiving.
breaking things down in an approachable way. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
It feels like a crazy thing to do. I'm not jumping off a plane. Like there's no way. I'm not putting myself through that. There is nothing enjoyable in that in my head. No, you'll enjoy it because
Yep.
you'll feel the thrill. I mean, that's not a thrill for me. That's like me feeling like I'm going to
Yeah,
die.
and
Like
by the way, maybe somebody else with different brain chemistry, that's
enjoys it.
good for them. But
Yeah,
part of it is like this we each have our own brain chemistry and we need different things.
yeah,
But I don't think anyone needs excess anxiety. It could be that
yeah.
some people that aren't already oriented that way,
Hmm.
who have none, it's helpful.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's hard for me to understand because that's just not how my brain is.
I want to circle back to cognitive distortions. I love the list. And I think it's such a relatable list. And I'm going to go one by one. So I'm going to name them. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to name them, and
Okay.
you're going to tell all of us what they are. Although the first word I can never
Okay.
pronounce this right. Cata catastro how
Catastrophizing.
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 There are some words I cannot do.
So catastrophizing, that's like a big one for me, catastrophizing. That is where I think like anything I do, I'm always thinking of the worst case scenario.
Hmm.
What if? What if? What if like there's a tidal wave that like comes and sweeps away everyone from the beach? What if?
Yeah.
That's catastrophizing. And so part of it is just recognizing when your brain is going to an extreme in that way, that's catastrophizing. You have
Black
no
and white
reason to think
thinking.
it's going to do that. Oh, black and white thinking. That's like permeates everything. By the way, America
Hmm.
is like the freaking home of black and white thinking. It's
You'd be
all or
surprised.
nothing.
You'd be surprised. You got to.
Really? Really? Well, that's good to hear cuz it's like big time here. So, this is the thought that well, if I'm not perfect, I'm
Hmm.
shit. And it's like, well, you're
Hmm.
not. That's black and white thinking. Maybe
Yeah.
you're somewhere in between in the gray zone.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't think anybody's black or white, are they? I don't think it's possible.
No,
How? It's not
no,
even like,
no. And
uh,
nothing is, by the way, nothing is.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if anybody thinks there is that generalization, you're just missing the grays. I guess that's the only way I can put that down.
Yeah, you just don't have enough information to see. You don't have enough
Yeah,
information to see the grays. Or, and it's often so much simpler to cast someone as, the other. It's so easy for people to be like, that person is evil, I am good. Black and white, like very simple. And it's just
yeah,
not how reality is. But it is harder to
yeah,
deal with grays, but it is
yeah,
important.
yeah. Overgeneralization.
My husband says this is my biggest one.
I know. I read that out and I'm like, oh my god. Yeah,
Um everybody loves this. Everybody
yeah,
hates this.
yeah.
Everybody I know believes this. Um and again, these are black and white thinking is sort of the theme throughout, but like
Mm.
overgeneralization making it seem like uh a couple pieces of data means everything, everyone.
And I think also it basically is like, so we have this. I'm going with India analogy here. So India has many languages, many sides to it. Now the south side of India has, I'm just counting the, has a bunch of states, and we all speak different languages. We don't speak Hindi, which is the predominant language in the country.
Yep.
But
Yep.
whenever someone refers to any of the people from any of the states in the south, we called, oh, you're from South India, right? And you generalized in terms of what you eat,
Like this
how
is
you
yeah,
talk.
like it's one
You're from the
thing.
south.
Yes.
I mean, like we're different
Yeah.
states. We speak different languages. Our food is different. The way we dress is different. Just because we don't speak what a large part of the north speaks,
Oh my
South India.
god. Overgeneralization.
So yeah, so that's why I was smiling. I'm like, I've heard this my entire life, and I don't look like most
Yes.
people from the south. Weirdly enough, because and this is like, it's not shaky territory because I've been called this my entire life. Most people from the south have a slightly darker complexion than I do. But
Okay.
I grew
There
up
we
there. My
go.
family's from there from generations, and so it's not like we came from somewhere
Yes.
else. But it's, oh, you don't look like you're from South India. I'm like, I grew up there. I'm from there. Just like you're going on my
Isn't
color. But
it
yeah,
strange how the South of all places
yeah,
has these like associations with it? Like
yeah.
the South of the United States has an association. And a
Mm.
lot of it is always based on overgeneralization.
Something
It's
there.
interesting.
Something to look into, I guess. Someone
Okay.
drop Malcolm Gladwell a
Yeah.
note. He might just make a book out of it.
Yeah, someone tell us what that is.
um, Labeling. I love labeling. Labeling's great. I mean, as a concept, not as something to do, as a
No,
concept.
you tell me an example of labeling that you've seen.
Um, I am very bad with numbers. Is me labeling myself all the time. I can count. I can use a
That's right.
calculator, but I cannot do numbers according to me because I label myself as someone who can't do numbers. I handled finance for a company
That's
for
right.
5 years, but still, yeah. That's, I mean,
Labeling is
there's no,
very self-limiting. It's very
yeah,
self-limiting. It's black and white. It's like
yeah,
here is a truth about me I cannot do, or here's a truth about them. Parents and their kids. My kid is
yeah,
just not good at. My kid cannot. It's like no labels. Don't label.
yeah.
Let them sort of figure it out. Grayscale.
I can go on. There's a lot of these coming up. Personalization.
It's all about me. Like what do I like seeing everything through your own lens and thinking that everything is a reflection on you.
Yeah. Everything's about you. Like
Everything's
literally,
about
anything
you.
can go wrong in the world, it's because of you.
Exactly. Which our brains are oriented that way, but it's a matter of getting enough perspective to see that that's not
Yeah.
true.
Mind reading.
This is another favorite of mine. I know what he thinks about me. How? How do you know? I know she doesn't like me. Do
Yeah.
you? Did she tell you that? I mean,
No,
you
I can
you
just
can't
sense
know
it.
unless someone has said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't
Oh, I
know.
love the next one. Actually, I will love the next two. Fortune telling.
Yeah, yeah. I love both mind reading and fortune telling because it's like, wait, do you think you're a mind reader? Are
Mm,
you a fortune teller? Do you know what's going to happen? Do you know
yeah.
like what the future holds?
Yeah.
It's helpful even just to spot it. I mean, the thing about all these cognitive distortions is just to say, this is mind reading. This is me
Yeah.
thinking I'm a mind reader. This is catastrophizing. The more you can name it and
Okay.
spot it.
Three more to go. Three more to go. My favorite one, uh, control fallacy.
Oh my
It's like,
God, me too.
ah,
Again, it's kind of like personalization, right? It's like, I think
yeah,
everything is about me. I think I
yeah,
can control everything. We were talking about this earlier. It was the if only. It's
yeah.
superstitions. Superstitions are
And also,
control
everything has to
fallacy.
be done by me. If
Yes.
would you say the connection, right? Like, if I don't do it, it isn't going to work. It's also why you
Yes.
overthink handing over responsibilities to other people. If you're a leader in a team, you're any of those, like, I have to
That's right.
control. If I don't, it's going to go sideways.
Micromanagement. Micromanagement
101.
is control fallacy.
Yeah.
Yes. 101.
The other fallacy, fallacy of change.
Yeah. um, do you have an example for that one in your life?
If I, I'm just trying to think of, I had this for a while. If I can become more organized, I will get
Mm,
things done better.
yeah,
But like someone told me today morning, said that you're organized the way that works for you. You don't have to be organized the way
I love
everybody
that.
else is.
I love that.
And that's, you're trying to be organized like what you think other people expect you to be like, and you think that will make you happy, but innately you're trying to change who you are because you
And
think
there's
it will
if
make.
only, right? There's if
Yeah,
only in there. If only I
yeah,
were to
yeah,
write, my life would change in this way.
yeah,
But you're often setting unrealistic goals for like
yeah.
how everything will change if this thing happens.
The last one, emotional reasoning. Ah,
Oh my god. This is a painful one for America right now. This is a painful one.
has been for a while, hasn't
Um
it?
oh, it really has. This is the idea that um the emotions that you have or the temporary and ever-changing emotions are the same thing as logic.
Hmm,
That you can or the same thing as fact, that emotions are fact.
yeah,
So understanding the world around you based on changing emotions is the
yeah,
same thing as understanding, for example, like let's say something like 95% of kids who are kidnapped by people in their family. This is just like a known fact,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
But emotionally, we're like, oh my God, kids get kidnapped. It's a stranger. A stranger's going to
yeah,
come get them. And there's just emotional reasoning disconnect
yeah,
around like what is actually happening because it is
yeah.
scary, because you are dealing with emotions.
I think I also kind of use it like a shield where it's like, I couldn't do this, so I'm never going to be able to do it. It's like, someone who starts a company and it fails. Let's say your first startup fails. Like, I failed at
Ooh,
my
good
startup.
point.
Never going to be able to do a startup, right? Um,
Yeah, that's right.
I built a startup that succeeded, and now I'm like, will I build another one that succeeds?
No,
Maybe I
that's a great
can't.
point.
Maybe it's a one-hit wonder. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, or that was that situation, but I'm having fear, so that won't be true again. You
yeah,
don't even understand that your emotions are affecting your reasoning.
yeah, yeah. I mean, each of these for me are like, you need to make cue cards. You got to carry them
I know.
around and say, "What are you doing right now? Go through these cards, uh, hand them out to people, and say, yeah, this is what you're doing right now." I have a feeling I'll hand myself these cards half the time. I do most of these all the
True.
time.
I mean,
And
yeah, definitely my husband is like overgeneralization.
emotional reasoning is me all the time. All the time. I was lying down in bed yesterday morning saying, I don't think I can do any of these things. Not no point. Why don't you just like call it a day and just like lie in bed? And Pooja, my wife, is like, get out of this. Get off the bed. Go do what you have to do. I'm
Yeah,
like,
and
fine.
like here is evidence that if you learn to approach it in the right way, 200 words
Yeah.
a week, you
Yeah.
can. You can.
I can keep doing this and keep having this conversation because I think that there's so many aspects to this. And I whenever there's a great conversation, I always say this. And my listeners know this is that I'm like, you always need to leave something for a part two. And
Yeah,
in my
of
head, there
course.
is a part two at some point of time of this conversation. Um,
Great.
but thank you so much. It's just one of those conversations where I feel like, in a conversation where you feel like you've spoken your mind as much as you've tapped into someone else's mind. This felt like one of those for me, and I think that's what makes a great podcast episode, when it's like you're sharing all around, and I think that's what I've processed through this whole conversation.
Yeah, that's what I love. I love I wanted to get to know you too. So I think that's really important too. I love being able to bring our full selves to the conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And what I'm going to do is that I'll definitely, if you're in India anytime, and if I'm in San Francisco, which I might because I've got family in San Francisco,
Yes.
and we're gonna do one of those like um, my people conversation. We're gonna catch up and do that. But till then, thanks for doing this.
I would love that. I would love that. You can Yes, I would love that. And you can come visit me at Pinterest too. We can have a lunch
Done,
at Pinterest, which would be nice.
done. We'll do that. Yes, sounds like a plan. I will not overthink that one. I'm gonna drop by and do it.
Don't
But
overthink it.
thanks.
Don't
Yeah.
overthink it.
I hope you got a lot of value from this chat with Meredith. She's really looked at overthinking and anxiety. It's a great tool for you to use in your life and for you to move ahead. If you haven't caught part one and part two, make sure you do, and stay tuned for a lot more interesting conversations on this channel, and take a pause.